Tulku Sang-ngag Rinpoche, Tulku Sang-ngag Single of the family channel, I mean, the Penanga James, the bit to get the Jimba, make it the two gentlemen, nature and defense of the Kunchapa. Tom Bemaka Besha, trained Dalu Yin Zoro Jun, or Jemba, Pimitumbola, Jevina, sense of the day of the number of Pemam Juni, Dalu, and so Magic Kadam Lambet and Mashanka. Sibje Jorato Urgenian some truths of producing Panama, which are the Obamengo Paden, the Javin Jahat. And Gaza Kadam Kinian, which are the Jesus on remain to be 10 to some day, then remain the same Jaquachi. Jimin Chenzo, the Lakuja, the Dasom, the Vilona Chula Jonas. Lasso, Tankatanya Vicentian Jackie in a time, I so very young, and it can be should be said. Yamsa never give me a samba to the Tokyo by certain December show. I tell a council by show at any just it on Tuesday. And in Talaba, any Jasilale, so do my that range goes in Papa de Denny. Changchup is Saint Jevik. And it's over. Labjam boy, a Palachino Nani, then it Jimba song get that train to Ramjical Spavatains.
So again, engender the proper motivation and precious mind enlightenment bodhicitta, thinking that for the sake of all sentient beings as vast in number as the sky is vast, to attain the level of Buddhahood, you will receive these teachings, listen to these teachings of profound Dharma, and having received them, put them perfectly into practice for that purpose. So if that is our motivation, then we'll continue our teaching on the trainings, the precepts of the heirs of the Buddhas, the Bodhisattvas, as described, put forth in our text, the 37 practices of a Bodhisattva. We're now in the context of having given rise to bodhicitta, the precious mind of enlightenment, the particular trainings, precepts to be engaged in, namely the 6 paramitas. So in our last class we discussed the paramita of generosity, and this evening we'll be discussing discipline.
So starting from what's our extreme never random of the Yendan Robert Doba came in the Tessipin Dubame by extreme somewhat. Jasila so.
So beginning with our root verse, verse 26 in the text. If lack of discipline prevents you from benefiting yourself, then your wish to benefit others is just a joke. Therefore, to guard discipline with no longing for worldly existence is the practice of a bodhisattva.
So that tells us that that's
Did we finish the discipline verse yet? Okay. Super day na dance from you name. Target day na
같이 찾아오서 말해.
아,
저는 샀어.
이거서 직제된 놈. 하는 것이
이거가 세상 시인 말이야.
이거 저도 고추 직제된 놈.
그래서 네 다들 같이 아니 저랑 같이 가상들이 뭐 초기업은 라스. 얘네 다 좀 가르쳐 얘네. 저좀 생겼더니 맞춰고 뭐 보고 같은 거 저좀 생겼대 잡아 아니 돼서 인사해. 옛날 저좀 생겼대 뭐 무슨 말이야. 이네한테랑 렌딩도 다 알아서 저좀 생겼대. 얘네 다 나한테 그냥 침발에 얘네요 저좀 요래. 내가 좀 발에나 내가 좀 소소부터는 저좀 뭐라다. 내가 얘네 와서 찍고 와서接받아. 얘네 다 와서接비고 저좀 다 찍다세. 接下我接到，那让人给接到，这是大家是有的是。
We were debating if we completed our discussion of discipline last week. So everyone remembers that we completed it, and then I was remembering maybe we started it. We started with the divisions of it. Maybe we didn't get through all of it, so we're thinking maybe we started it. Maybe there's a little bit more to say about discipline. So anyway, regarding discipline. Oh, good. Sorry. So when I was a kid, when I was a child, we all kind of thought that discipline or ethics, discipline was really just something for the monastics to worry about. That the laity had no discipline ethics to really consider. It was something for the monks and nuns. Really, that's not. Discipline, ethics are to be practiced by everyone. And there's particular sets of ethics and discipline for both monastics, laity, suitable for everyone. When we talk about discipline, there's particularly two categories. The discipline or the particular ethics of vows or commitments, the ethics that are taken up by choice, and then there are natural ethics, like natural ethics to be engaged in kind of by everyone.
수그즈나야 다 가서 가서 애니 다텔라 니가 차비로 베나다 애니 소지아바다 되네 고마지아바다 애니 때나인 애니 다니 가서 우엠 나서바다 우엠 우엠 공도
Sexual misconduct.
Oh yeah, that makes sense. Never thought about that.
Last of what I'm so that I'm younger than Jacob Maranzo in a young kind said that's in a corner yin for Tunga. I think Aranzo predators choose on my even Jitan Tonia. Or that is sometimes dependent on for yin general child in yours. Never no child in yours. Jake song we are no child in yours.
So natural ethics. Natural ethics are really those actions that are engaged in. That whoever engages in them, whenever they're engaged in, are naturally or inherently a fault, negative. Killing, murder, stealing, sexual misconduct, and so forth. These naturally, inherently negative actions. These are what we call the natural ethics, where it's not just in a particular given spiritual tradition or in the Buddhist tradition or Dharma that these are considered to be false or negative, but really anywhere, even in a worldly context, whatever country you go to, whatever nation you're in, things that tend to be illegal. These all fall within this category of natural ethics, things that are just inherently negative, are to be guarded against.
그네요. 말한테 benna 다 시에바다 benna다 누에게 참고나 다 benna 다 아니 가정다 그저 두서로 빼는 듯한 먹고요 빼는 입양가 필요서 그때 소나라 양지 라드 중간에서 집을 지어봤더니 중요한 거 지어야 야 가시에 거서다 뭐만 지어봤어서 다 등상이랑 거랑 인정을 하고 차를 얻었어 그래는 보면 도와는 것들이 지어야 알았어 간단하게 쌍구형 알아서 얼마나 어디 지어 그래는 알아서 그 애니 가르사이 자기는 축이나 자도 축이나 김밥도 동 근데 샤이다 돼서 가르사이 야
grass
야야 그래서 돼서 가르사이 때문에
김밥만
축당 돼서 김밥도 조금만 근데 배는 제가 말하면서 대라서 버지 여러 배는 당가서 신나 소바들이 말아 얘기해서 겨로면지 대저부터 다 등상을 거저 배는 제가 그래서 샤게 특별히 아니 다나 먼저 지어줘라면 등산 잡을 참 잘하고 와. 뭔가 좀 가르쳐 버렸더니 랑신 배는 거의 성격돼서 사실 시대 때밖에 대들 거저 아니 괜찮은 바에 지어줘 다 등산 가서 지이 참 잘하고 와. 나저 가르쳐 버려. 근데 이걸 봤을 때는 초당 되는 작은 나와 되는 김바라서 샹겨라서 뭐 동이야. 초도서 담기나 차견의 도구야. 다 때라서 왔다랬다. 너무 집이 참지도 와. 그래서 다 정말 랑신으로 차려요.
So then the ethics that are taken up, that are not necessarily inherently or naturally negative, but are willfully or taken up as one's ethics or discipline. Namely, those ethics are prescribed and actions to not be engaged in within the teachings of Vinaya that are taken up by the ordained Sangha, the monastics, the bhikshus and bhikshunis, 250, 350, however many of these prescriptive things that aren't allowed to be engaged in once taken up. So many of these actually were originally and initially understood to be just ethics, discipline that were just to be taken up, prescribed and taken up. But really many of them, if we think about it today, are being understood to be also from this first category of being naturally or inherently having some sort of negativity or fault to them. Where for a long time, a lot of the vows that the monastics had to take up really made no sense at all and seemed kind of ridiculous, just kind of pointless things that they weren't allowed to do. Can't urinate on the grass. What's that all about? Can't, go to the bathroom wherever you want and water on the grass or whatever. Can't cut down trees that don't fall over all by themselves. What's this all about? Really, when we think about it today, a lot of these make more sense from a natural and inherently sort of negative perspective. There's reasons you don't go to the bathroom in streams of water and cutting down trees today, deforestation and so forth. So all of these ancient prescriptions, which at their own time of being prescribed and throughout history may have not made all that clear sense, now actually make perfect sense and can kind of be understood in this way of being naturally or inherently having a fault to them if engaged in.
코랑기 코란즈랑 답변은 산지가 받게서 겐된든지 랑게 다 당고 받게서 때 아니 제도와 등산한테는 대서 담지고 빼는 이하나 받게 되기도 와 되게 제발도 와 랑게 하시란 말씀이지 이하나 제 코리온에서 담지다 받게서 지금 와서 성격 제고야 다 그래서 그 제는 때는 나바제는 이하나 나바다 뭐 편도에 받아서 야구 시에도 있나요? 네, 시행해 걸어서 용당들이 왕자여 받아서 이게 다 고속한 거야. 도시 땅들도 산지기 답변이 돼서 이 코로나 코드 받는데 나랑서 당파 아니 나는 제끼는 다 되게 제반적으로 주고 있었어.
그거는 den상 고유의 시에는 여러분들 학원에 있는 준비 제일마에
Those people who are constituting, making rules and regulations these days, they're trying to make rules and regulations. They're not following themselves.
Yeah. So initially, these the Vinaya rules to take up were taken up and prescribed by the Buddha himself and taken up by the Sangha. They were their prescribed conduct that they themselves engaged in. But today we have a greater understanding, open, public understanding of the effects on the environment of different actions and so forth that are prescribed by governments, and we have different regulations and laws that are taken up by often the prescribers themselves aren't engaging in them. So in brief, the relinquishing of that which harms others as the primary thing that we describe as ethics, relinquishing whatever it is that brings about harm to others. So that's one division of discipline, giving up all that brings about harm for others. Then also we have the whatever is the accomplishing of virtue, engaging in positivity, the virtue of body, speech, and mind, is the discipline or the ethics of accomplishing the Dharma. And then we have the accomplishment of altruistic endeavor, the bringing about the welfare and benefit of others directly, which is the discipline of accomplishing the benefit of sentient beings. So really all of these come down to, in essence, discipline ethics is about having a mind of abandonment, a mind willing to relinquish or abandon.
rangi karse ta sipin dumba meba ta tingara do gera chekene chujera sopak ene rang te ta mayimba ene ta nga so pa sa ene te ka chwi bres.
So the discipline, one's own personal ethics to be maintained, to be guarded. A key point of how to do this, the intention and motivation behind this, is that one's motivation cannot be contaminated with any sort of motivation to gain something within existence and cyclic existence itself. Namely, one's motivation cannot be contaminated by any of the 8 worldly dharmas.
Today, sometimes that project 대만 시과탐 제당 대나 이때 담바탐 남지장 다 참생인데 나랑 좀 멍겠다 참 저도 뭐지 사이긴도 저다 연대 담지 멍겠다 뭐지 인스 그래서 손이 버렸어.
So all the bliss-gone ones, all the Sugatas, all the enlightened beings, all the sublime beings, all speak in single voice regarding discipline, identifying discipline, one's ethics, as being the very basis of all subsequent qualities arising. It's like the earth itself, the earth, the foundation of all that is good, the basis of all enlightened qualities is discipline. So then, in relation to our guarding of our discipline and ethics, a main feature that has to be there are the elements of mindfulness and awareness, or mindfulness and vigilance, where through the power of one's mindfulness and self-introspection, then constantly being aware of analyzing one's own faults in any given situation, being aware of one's own faults and striving that one's conduct is not contaminated by faulty motivation, faulty action arising from that. Then in this way one's safeguarding against one's discipline degenerating and guarding it in a way that one's ethics and discipline are constantly at all times improving, progressing. And then in conjunction with this, making particular aspiration prayers that this may be accomplished. May I safeguard my committed to discipline and personal ethics. May it not be contaminated by faults. May I recognize my faults. And then training in one's prescribed ethics. So then, as the commentary says, then training in that way is the practice of all bodhisattvas. And patience. For a bodhisattva who seeks a wealth of virtue, every harm is like a precious treasure. Therefore, without getting irritated by anything at all, to cultivate patience is the practice of a bodhisattva. So then regarding patience, we have three classifications of patience to be engaged in. Not getting angry with enemies, having the power of mind to not give rise to anger towards enemies. The patience of bearing with difficulties for the sake of Dharma. And the patience of bearing with suffering, patience of enduring suffering.
그래서 다 때려 쪼고서당 가랑 저거 빼는다 애니
노근데.
밑에 suffering 말해.
서른대는 미탁
공부니.
오반이도 못하봐.
Sorry, the third one here is not the patience of not having fear towards the undefiled, meaning not giving rise to fear towards emptiness.
그래서 다 강들 드린 거랑 저에서 애니 다 쪼고대 드린 거랑 저 애니 다 장첩지 생생인데 애니 드레스 잠바당 인결에 다 대지 거랑 저거 애니 그런 로운데 다 가르래서는 지 애니 공조다 되는 다 돼서 배르쳐서 애니 근데 애니 차미오레스 네 파탄바게 되는 손도가 얘네 배르쳐서 더 차글리 자리장 셰당글리 깨지마지 되는 디파치어요스 되는 손요레스
Primarily in our training of engendering bodhicitta, precious mind enlightenment, which is based upon the qualities of love and compassion. Really the antithesis, the surest way to destroy one's love and compassion is through anger, through the power of anger. Related to this is Padampa Sangha said, 100 acts of desire versus one single act of anger. The single act of anger is more negative.
네 손당 빼내다 잠바 첨보당 되네 맞서 가서 애니 다 공로 첨보 성에서 다 고속 가서 지고서 애니 갈로고요래 대때 다 맞서 양 맞서 빼내 되니 공로 제사라고 매나 되는 저바 검사예요 말어 빼내다 당하라 저바 생긴 저바 검보고요나 다때 저바 검쓰기 요
It's really the antithesis, the opposite of great love is great anger. That being said, if there is no object to which one may give rise to anger, hostility towards, then there is no means to engage in the practice to cultivate patience. Without a harm doer or harm being having been done, then there is no way to cultivate patience. For a bodhisattva who seeks a wealth of virtue, every harm is like a precious treasure. So also the Buddha Shakyamuni spoke to this at one point, stating, without the great kindness of Devadatta, enlightenment never would have been achieved. The kindness of Devadatta, his relative, who spent his lifetime trying to inflict harm upon the Buddha. And based on having Devadatta, then there's the opportunity to develop love and compassion and patience. So the Buddha would often joke or speak in this way. Thanks to the kindness of Devadatta, enlightenment became possible. For example, in the teachings on training in bodhicitta, prescribed by the Kadampa masters, the Kadampa teachings of Lojong mind training, it's said that whoever speaks bad to you, do not speak bad back to them. Whoever beats you, do not beat them back. And there's this list, namely pointing out that whatever harm one receives, you're not to retaliate, you're not to return harm for harm, but instead take every opportunity of receiving harm as the means for cultivating, meditating on patience. This is a key point for understanding how to train in patience.
다 됐다고 되는 알아서 애니 드라이 술 넣어봤잖아. 되는 내가 파르지 애니 잠하다 애니 인질 거면 됐다고 지들면 다 데려가서 짐냥 봤어도 근데 제가 알아서 그배다 다 책임을 받아고 지 애니 나가서 책임을 받고 자지 시에오나요. 데려가 간다 다보면 제 짐냥 봐 세대가서 any better just now a year person, a year person, Angian, Telatanich, Proamejapa, Angam Lampa, or that reject, so what that reject telling us, you are not that in Saba, Jim, to be away with this.
So for us, the practice of patience, cultivating patience, when an enemy, a harm doer, does some form of harm against us, we're to retaliate with love and compassion, return harm with cultivating love and compassion towards the harm doer. Here it says to pay no attention to it, to give it no credence, regarding when people speak ill of us or use harsh words against us. That we're to not take hold of those, literally to care for those words, to allow them to go in one ear and pass out the other, to give them, pay them no attention, instead of allowing them to force us to rise up in hostility, to instead let them pass without affording them any particular meaning or credence or power. Then that's one particular way that we can cultivate patience. And if you're able to do that, that's a sign of your cultivation of patience.
Yang data which are so John to Cho Jing so Puntu Niming sample. Bernatanga John Cadeson, Carpa Cho Sang about the Nichik to give a Tampian, Puntu John Rogres.
So also in regard to cultivating patience within the context of Lojong mind training, we're to also contemplate on the particular faults of anger, of hostility, of having moments of anger, where in the Bodhicharyavatara, the way of the Bodhisattva, Shantideva remarks that 1,000 eons of amassed virtue are destroyed in a single moment of anger.
Yang didn't cut us on, but now around so rangy some sort of people who do some of the youngs. Not so like she had done get any same and it's same like your nas, Rava, around so good chip any belong to your so far. Any around so Katse Yonaya, any pet of money, any same the chick, Devata, Shawati, Yamsun, Sunny or money. Then not so don't not so much about them. Taji Tatokin, Benatang around so good. Tanya song better, Yamala so patas, whatever. That day so, not so young, Shadang when it's on the Sevier. So what I don't know, Yamaji, John shit. The next song, Shadang, Yampi, John Bashing, add Zola so much chance. Shadang with John, Tani, then around so good, Zabala, and ya.
For example, we can look directly at ourselves, at our own mind, our own experience, in particular with regard to anger, our own personal experience of anger. We're in the moment of hostility, of being angry, enraged about something. No matter what we possess, whatever is around us, whatever objects of desirable objects, luxurious things we may have, or whatever there may be, in the moment of being angry, nothing can be of any benefit to us. There's nothing that can bring about a state of happiness, well-being, or peace in our mind when we're enraged with anger. On top of that, it brings about all sorts of different forms and variety of suffering, and ultimately really is the primary cause that will lead to rebirth in the lower realms, in taking rebirth in hell. Of the afflictive emotions, it is anger that's the main cause for plunging us into the depths of hell. Which is why it says, there's this famous quote that advises us to give rise to deep interest or delight in patience by looking at the faults of anger.
다 되는 게 추가 다 까와지야 봐서 다 추가 까지서 다 말한 저거 배는 애니 개와다 이니 다가 저지 아니요 냠내 다고지 제거나 양 대급값을 증가하는 저 애니 대라 얘네 양가 저지 애니 지루야다 애니 증가 저 전주 제마 도비야 이렇게 제거 지루
Slothfulness, lazy.
Yeah.
So then next we have the patience of bearing with difficulties for the sake of the Dharma, which is referring to when we're engaging in particular activities of virtue or engaging in meditation practice and retreat or something. That the patience that when we're struggling to give rise to diligence or interest, zeal in our practice, or falling sway to slothfulness or laziness, to bear with our practice. In that way, this is an antidote to such things arising, such faults arising.
That's 내가 돌아 양말한 저거 뺀 저비 그 배워서 애니 chamber 가서 give 배워 chamber 믹서 getting 말한 저거 애니 자바 고마트서 그야 남털져야 그래다 말한 저거 이제 직접 나갔다 되는 가서 자기 좀 고마트서 저거지 남털라서 받아서 chamber 이게 탑나 초비도 보니 양야 전주지 되는 인도 비에는 당가라 저거 직간에 가능하다. 애네 동말라서 같은 게 가르쳐오네요. 저토가 제거.
So at these times then, also contemplating the benefits of patience, of having patience, having the ability to tolerate or forbear whatever it is that arises. Contemplating on both the qualities of patience, of tolerance, as well as the qualities of virtue and engaging in virtue itself. One often used method for this is the contemplating or reading of the life stories of previous masters, the Namtars, the lives and liberations of the previous enlightened masters, such as Milarepa and the other great saints. So we read these to re-inspire us, to give us the power to tolerate, to forbear, to have patience with whatever situations arise, difficulties, sufferings arise for us in the face of our engaging in virtue, engaging in dharmic practices. And then in this way, by being able to have this patience or tolerance for whatever arises, it spurs our diligence, our interest in the practice. It increases the power of our heart, our fortitude to bear with whatever it is that arises, and gives us the ability to try and face and tolerate whatever difficulties and suffering may arise. So then next we have the patience of not giving rise to fear, not being terrified by the profound ultimate meaning of Dharma, namely that of emptiness. When we have stories of the teachings of emptiness are given simply by hearing about emptiness. The practitioners of the lower vehicles, the Shravakas, the listeners, were extremely terrified. Or in some cases it's said their heads exploded. So there are stories in the sutras during the time of the Buddha, the Shravakas and listeners not being able to, the teachings of emptiness not fitting in their mind and them being terrified by these teachings. One particular story of this, the disciple Shariputra, Arhat Shariputra, was residing somewhere with a retinue of 500 monks, where he was teaching them, and he knew that it was prescribed, and he was planning, and he knew that the last session of teachings was going to end at dawn the next day, and at the moment of the sun rising, all 500 of his disciples would gain arhatship. So he was preparing for this. They were all preparing for this to happen. And then around this time, Manjushri shows up and somehow asks Shariputra to...
No, when Shariputra was away, Manjushri disguised as a Shariputra.
Oh, showed up. So he didn't take Shariputra away. Shariputra had just left, and Manjushri shows up and sits on Shariputra's throne, appearing in the guise of Shariputra. And this is just before all 500 of these practitioners are going to become arhats, in liberation as arhats. So Manjushri immediately starts teaching emptiness. And then they're all terrified. Some of them immediately start vomiting blood. Others of them, yes, their heads explode, split open. By the end, every one of them died. And Shariputra returns to see all of his disciples on the brink of arhatship, now deceased, blood everywhere. And he's deeply distraught, of course, horrified by this. So he, together with Manjushri, they go to the Buddha.
When ringing the gong, nobody shows up.
Oh, yeah. First he rings the gong, and he shows up, and then finds him all dead. So then they go together to the Buddha. Yeah. They were all dead. He rings the gong, they're all dead. In the Dharma garden where the teachings were given, he finds all of them dead there. So then they go to the Buddha together, and Shariputra, at the feet of the Buddha, is saying, what has happened to all of them? Where have they been reborn? And Shariputra, as an arhat, his powers of clairvoyance not fully manifest as a Buddha, needs to rest in a state of equipoise to stabilize his clairvoyance, so he rests in equipoise. Then sees that every single one of them has been reborn in hell. All of them, they're on the brink of arhatship, but now they've all been reborn in hell. And reborn in hell as they had received the teachings, the most profound teachings of the truth of emptiness, giving rise to great doubt in the truth of emptiness, then based on that cause, have been reborn in hell. That being said, though, that so they're reborn in hell, but from their single however, from their being reborn in hell, the negativity that would be burned away from that, from one single lifetime, one single set of experiences in hell, they would gain complete enlightenment from that. Where if they had stayed with Shariputra and in the morning attained arhatship, then the time that it takes from arhatship to enlightenment can be eons and eons. It's really Manjushri did them this great favor. Shariputra, with his only an arhat himself, unable to see that the distance it would take. So really, it was the skillful means of Manjushri to do this. So this story and others like this are related and discussed in text by Mipam Rinpoche.
얘네 다 체마거든. 체미 취들어 가서 공리 체모로. 대한테는 지금 가서 똥이 돼서 체미. 아직 가서 얘네 체미기 취들어라. 대한테는 지금 똥이 돼서 지금 고소나 다 취담게 동반이래서는 지금은 농사들이 제스가 그래서 농사들이 제나요. 내로 던데라 때때서 제스가 그래서 딱 맞을 때는 배나다 맞아 돈이 돼서 상와 휴지나는 거 좀새한테 갈래서는 다 내려서 제게는 다 보조 배드게서 얘네 배라지 야 농사 제스가 그래서 야 농사 제야 이거요 그러나 이나요 제게는 네 지대에서 등산될 때서 미나가지고 하셨어 바지가 동반이라서는 농사 제서 말했어 제게는 다 이런 저여서는 고소 빠진 거 계획지를 돈이 이렇게 대대 등산 돈이 되시나 싸움 맞잖아요. 하셔는 그게 들어가야 돼. 진짜는 다 내려야 돼. 대대에서 고민하라 또.
So in Tibet, really aren't any Shravakas, listeners, solitary realizers, the Shravaka vehicles, lower vehicles. Everyone's in the Mahayana, the great vehicle. In Tibet in particular, emptiness is really emphasized and taught really clearly, extremely emphasized. Particularly because we have all these deities and spirits and gods and deities where these dharmas of characteristics that we have, if they're not rooted in the teachings of emptiness, then it's very easy and very possible for the potential for wrong views to arise in connection to that, to take them as being real. For that reason, then emptiness is really emphasized and taught extensively. In large part for that reason, to avoid giving rise to the wrong views in relation to deities and spirits and so forth. So there's that danger there. However, in the West, it seems that maybe we don't have this danger where we just teach emptiness straightforward. There's no real ideation about gods and demons and spirits existing here in the West.
계속 고속이었지, 얘네 하던 데 가서 집안하고 이제 통원이고 뭐. 탑도 미나가지고 있어.
So in Tibetan Dharma, through our conceptual analysis, through our reasoning, we investigate deeply into the truth of emptiness, the emptiness of phenomena, the selflessness of phenomena. Here in the West, with our scientific inquiry, through our various different gadgets and instruments, we can look into the nature of things, finding, ending up at a similar conclusion, with looking at subatomic particles, the infinitesimal partless particle, and so forth. So through very different methods, maybe we've sort of arrived at a similar conclusion.
그래서 고전 보다 팀부터 나한테는 나와 매겨서나 네 돈이 돼서 해다 고소지 가서 고소에 쪼만다지 지는 지가 많이 잡는 거. 근데 다가 이내야 군수가 답변을 생각해서 전에 것에서 가래에서는 다 나중에 다음에 봐 동반이들 돈을 다 가라서 다음에 비닐로도 또 랑게 단생도 막 녀보도 조금이더 단생이 녀보도 조금이더 아니 야 근데 닌게 작음이더 될 때는 고소 되게 덜 조금이더 맞아.
If you go to college these days, with college students and you teach on emptiness, talk about emptiness, selflessness, the students seem to light up. They have a lot more questions about that. They're intrigued by that. Probably in part because our science has reached similar conclusions regarding emptiness and the non-existence of a self, the true nature of reality. That being said, the scientific understanding does not really serve the main function of being an antidote to ego clinging, clinging to the existence itself. And it doesn't necessarily serve to help us engender compassion and enlightened qualities. So in that way, it kind of misses the mark.
chula kawa je toba ene tena yinge ene da ngaran zo go je ene tegwa chibu chude so tamje da ngaran zo pe je seri nga zo de yongor ba ta pe na je so sa de ba jang da je kina de ge je ngaran zo go kar ba kang ne je go ya je kina da te ta ba de ya ene da de tu sa mare sa do de ge ta pe je sa tras go de ta mai be choni da de je ene so
for us, if our goal, if we're after the attainment of enlightenment, then we have to train in willingly taking up, bearing with the difficulties, austerities, difficulties, challenges that come up with during the process of accomplishing the Dharma. Where all the teachings, all the dharmas of Mahayana come down to the trainings in amassing the accumulations, purifying the obscurations. Where for the Buddha, it said this process took incalculable eons. So we may think that, I can't take that long for me. I could never, strive diligently, forbear with everything that's going to come up in that inconceivably long duration of how long it's going to take for this to happen. So that's not the mindset to have. The mindset to have is that I can bear with whatever needs to happen for as long as this takes. That's the patience, the tolerance that we're to engender. So therefore, without getting irritated by anything at all, to cultivate patience is the practice of a bodhisattva.
Jawar macam tak berpasal tak internet tu semua, nanglah. Gua tahu gua tu letak detail lepas tu yang tua. Kan cisik nampak ni batang. Dua cisik ni je pas cisik na dua cisik nampak ni batang. Sembilan kasih ni bat. Desek parlo. Ini tajam. Ini marang sungguh ni je. Ini tenang yang kita ni sembilan tu sungguh tengah sebab kau sahaja. Jangan sebab sengit tu sana. Dia tahu tu berarti kisah ini kangen tang, tonggar nampak tadi kisah tahu tonggar yang batuna, desa ke senjok de cedang tu, desa ke tadi poba de cedang tu, ya cedang tu yang mana, ini dia kuasa siapa menua, oh dah desa tu bersama di, desa tu bersama tang itu ni payah bersama.
One particular quote from Bodhicharyavatara, the way of the Bodhisattva, that His Holiness the Dalai Lama, often in his teachings on the internet that you can find, begins his teachings with this quote, this verse is a place there to begin the teaching. As long as space remains, as long as sentient beings remain, so too shall I remain and dispel the miseries of the world, or dispel the suffering of sentient beings. So this verse, the meaning behind this verse, really is the heart of being a bodhisattva. For a bodhisattva, they have this vow to remain as long as there is suffering anywhere, not just their own, but as long as there is suffering to be seen. In the moment of witnessing suffering, misery of another sentient being, that in that moment, those situations do nothing but serve to increase the courage, the fortitude, the strength of heart of the bodhisattvas. That's how we're to be. So really, if we can, with regards to patience and with regards to the conduct of a bodhisattva, if we can really contemplate on the meaning behind that and perceiving things in that way, will be very good.
That didn't sound good. yang ba zhen zhe la ba ne rang de ba ki zhu de nian ran yang guo le me shu de duo de zhen tong ni zhu ge de yuan de ju ni jie zhen zhe zhou ba jia si la le yin song.
So then next we have diligence. The Shravakas and Pratyeka Buddhas who strive for their benefit, I think it's alone, expend effort as if to extinguish a fire burning on their heads, and for the benefit of all beings, to cultivate joyous effort, the wellspring of positive qualities, is the practice of a bodhisattva. So for individuals solely striving for their own welfare, focused on accomplishing their own great purpose, based on having given rise to fear of samsara, of cyclic existence, renunciation towards samsara, then for the purpose of alleviating, being free from transcending their own state of suffering. If those such beings only focused on the one being of themselves, expend effort, have such great diligence to accomplish their minute purpose. They expend effort as if to extinguish a fire burning on their head. Then sentient beings who are striving to accomplish the welfare of the entirety of being, those that have given rise to engendered bodhicitta, the precious mind of enlightenment, and taking up the vows and commitments of working to accomplish the welfare of sentient beings, then why would they not need to cultivate joyous effort or diligently endeavor in their mission? Of course they would. So here, just in comparison, the bodhisattvas, those that endeavor for the welfare of all, of course they must have great diligence. And our definition of diligence here, or joyous effort, really the essence of what we mean by diligence, is to take delight in virtue. So this is our understanding of diligence regarding the six paramitas, namely the paramitas of skillful means, generosity, diligence, meditative concentration, and patience. Really, diligence or joyous effort is a companion to all of them. If you're lacking joyous effort or diligence, then none of them will be accomplished. Really, it's the catalyst, the facilitator, or the ally to all the paramitas is diligence. Which is why it's said that among all virtues, diligence is supreme. Joyous effort is supreme.
양 어쩌면 되게 sonnya beneta 지금 고서 시럽선 가시면 이나야 선주 매나 그냥 배동다 어쩌면 되게 son 시럽 genjes 라동 첸의 쪽스 선주 genje 로타라
시럽 첸
라바 동바트는 되게 쪽지니 로레스 그 시럽 첸 뭐야 내가 선주 매나 내가 통화를 때는 라바 동바 도세 라바 동바트는 쪽이 로예요
준도
선주 genje 로타라스 도시다로 이나야 그 선주 요나 때는 맞아 타만다고 지는 딱 두고레스
Tell.
Ashes.
Huh?
Ashes.
Turn a mountain into ashes?
Yeah. Destroy.
Paltry room shame. Generally, we think of a transcendent wisdom, shara, knowledge, wisdom, most important. And Paltry room says the individual with wisdom, with great knowledge, goes about with their empty-handed, with their hands like clutched at their side like this. Where the individual with diligence, through the power of their diligence, can like turn a mountain to ash.
With the empty hand under the armpit.
Oh yeah. 이제 인상 내가 말하죠. 전주 생일때 다 레로메바. 내가 개와 가래이나요. 대답되네. 좀하다. 대답하는 것들이 다 말하죠. 그때는 적토고요. 근데 선거 다 개와 가래도네요. 어떻게 다 맞아. 전주 아니 같이 볼 거였어.
So with diligence, with joyous effort, one is completely free of laziness. There's no laziness with regard to any virtuous activity, however large or small. Whatever virtue there is available, whatever virtuous action is being engaged in, one is delighted by that. That is really the heart of a joyous effort or diligence. That one enters into with a sense of delight into whatever act of virtue.
다 대답 지금 말하면서 다 대답을 보니까 전주현이 개침부터 somje제니 다 나바드네 삼대나가 봐 기니라 때문에 하통도 녀노다는 남바는 정제니 좀이 예리 양단 대바에 삼대 공부했으라는 예서.
So that's diligence. And moving on to meditative concentration or samadhi. Vipassana, perfectly endowed with shamatha, completely conquers all afflictions. To cultivate meditative stability that transcends the four formless states is the practice of a bodhisattva.
다 신이 실생에 다 쪽을 가르쳐 버리고 신이 세드 아니 샘 아니 제게도 아니 지금 아주 아니 다 삼대에서는 신이서 기발을 봐 강한다 다 삼대에서도 샘 제게도 되는 아주 내가 지금 아니 쪽으로다가 아주 아니 삼대에서 그래서
Vipassana perfectly endowed with shamatha. So shamatha, shinya in Tibetan, calm abiding. Calm abiding really is the capacity to set the mind in single-pointed concentration, to have the mind abide single-pointedly. Which really is the definition of samten, meditative concentration. They're really synonymous. When you say shamatha or meditative concentration, it's the same thing. Samten, meditative concentration or samadhi, is likewise the capacity to abide single-pointedly.
다 대양 베네다다 가는 쪽에 기획 얘네 다 가는 쪽에 얘네 미과 안에 되는 가는 쪽에 얘네 기획 미과라 얘네 샘 얘네 가는 쪽에 얘네 강한 대바테네 얘네 매워 얘네 가는 제와 나체만 생기기 신이서
Also, the mind abiding on a virtuous point of reference. The mind remaining without wavering from its fixation upon an object of virtue. Remaining stably on that given object. Then that also is what we call calm abiding or shamatha with characteristics.
나한테는 가는 저 농중 가담배 되네 농중 같아서 나와 다시는 당고를 값서 당고배는 아니 우가 때문에 아니 지가 저 아니 신이 나한테는 그렇게 가르쳐 럽지세네 얘네랑 그 같이서로 그래서 되는 거는 또 당고 때가 양센데 양처럼 가래 좀 나왔더니 좋겠네 뭐그 진중을 하면
It's from the Lojong tradition of the Kadampa masters, the Kadampa mind training. When you first arrive in the trainings of calm abiding shamatha, you take one's breath as the object of your focus. You train in cultivating practice shamatha based on watching one's breath, affixing one's mind to the exhalation, following the breath outside of oneself on the exhalation, and then likewise fixing one's attention to the inhalation, then stably maintaining one's connection to the respiration.
다 때라 되는 거랑 좀 양도 세제는 거랑 좀 양나더니 니 가시라고 도스제제. 근데 정말 다 지금랑 좀 대체 같이 모여서. 저당 그 당가랑 좀 배나 아주 샘디 지당 요로야 돼. 초진이 되는 거랑 좀 용대 요로고요. 그래서 좀 되는 랑 연결 목대 마 다들 나빠는 때니 얘는 양지 샘대양 얘는 라인도 막 가르쳐 보고 얘네 샘대양 얘는 라인이 이제 다른 거야 돼. 그래서 뭐요?
So this is the first instruction to engage in accomplishing shamatha. First begin by counting affixing your mind to your breath and then counting the breaths, counting 21, so forth, starting out with 21 breaths, engaging in this way for a few days, several days. So first to do this is quite important. It serves a good function where the mind generally is moving, thoughts proliferating in the mind, and then the breath likewise is naturally moving, our respiration is naturally moving. And the breath will naturally calm itself and left by itself. So placing one's attention, your mental focus upon the natural inhalation and exhalation of the breath, then as the breath naturally becomes pacified, softer, slower, pacified, then that forces or naturally makes the mind calm down and become more pacified, slow down.
다 됐다고 그 지가 저 니대양 다 지가 저거 고용돼서 왜 같이 모여 니대서야 왜 말았대 아니 때나 이게 지가 삼대기 철마세로와 삼대기 철마세도 되니 대서 그 다지 파체돼서 메살라 그 숨보라 아니 니대양 되고 때나
When engaging in the place that you accomplish shamatha, accomplish samadhi, meditative concentration, is quite important, the environment itself, the qualities of the environment. You're to go to a peaceful and secluded place where the particular features conducive to training samadhi really pertain to one's environment, having a place that is peaceful, free of the distractions and disturbances to one's mind, being able to train peacefully, and so forth. So a peaceful and secluded place. And to progress one's internal process of the mind, pacifying, training the mind, then you can take the initial physical support, virtuous support, often prescribed to be a statue of the Buddha, an image of the Buddha placed in front of you. And then affixing your gaze and your attention, your mind on the form of the Buddha in front of you. Setting your mind on that. Then in that way, fixating or training and becoming able to grasp or fixate, control the mind in that way by maintaining the attention without wavering, without distraction on the form of the Buddha. Barme. Generally speaking, whatever you choose to take as an object to affix your gaze on, to train your attention to, is really okay. It doesn't have to be a statue. Something statue of the Buddha really can be anything. That being said, taking an object that may potentially elicit afflictive emotions in you should not be chosen. One that brings about desire or anger or aversion in you. You should not take those such things as your object. And often for beginners, taking some sort of object that you're really quite neutral towards, there's no real connection to you, neutral towards it can be quite good. So in general, any object that your senses can be affixed to and attend to can be a suitable object for your accomplishing calm abiding. Not just physical forms you see with your eyes, but sound, smells, taste, whatever they may be, can serve as objects for your attention, fixed to training calm abiding. That being said, say you take sound, some particular sound is your object of focus. Maybe it's a song, maybe it's some sound that is really quite beautiful. And there's the danger that, attachment, desire, clinging to that sound arises. You're training in your Samten on whatever sound or some song, like Rinpoche would do, and you start, oh, that's cool. And whatever semblance of concentration you had is fallen sway to being overwhelmed by the loveliness of the song. So maybe don't take that as such an object. So one thing about the form of the Buddha is the form of the Buddha is unique. It has extraordinary qualities, extraordinary blessing, just the form itself. It's not an ordinary rock or piece of earth, It's the unique and extraordinary form of the fully enlightened Buddha, which naturally has a blessing power. So maybe take that as the object. And then also within the Vajrayana vehicle, we have various different methods that really are likewise serving the function of accomplishing calm abiding, shamatha, stabilizing the mind, where we, the samadhi of the meditative concentration on the deity, visualization of the deities, the concentration on the recitation of mantra and the visualization of mantra. All these likewise are accomplishing the same feature of calm abiding, but they also have the extraordinary, unique qualities of blessings and the qualities of the Vajrayana practices, the unique, skillful means of Vajrayana. By training in shamatha, calm abiding, then when one gains a true stability, really the supreme quality of stability in shamatha, calm abiding, then within that state there is no arising infiltration of the afflictive emotions whatsoever. That being said, solely by the aspect of calm abiding or shamatha, the very root of the afflictive emotions is not severed, not cut through. Shamatha alone by itself, training shamatha without the aspect of vipassana, direct insight, it's analogous to like a forest fire. Well, the trees or the grass can be burned away by the fire, but the roots are still there, and then as soon as it rains again, the sprouts of the afflictive emotions are immediately ready to arise again. which is why we need the aspect of Vipassana. So Vipassana, perfectly endowed with shamatha, completely conquers all affliction. And when we say Vipassana, direct insight, we're specifically meaning the wisdom that realizes selflessness, the transcendent wisdom which realizes selflessness. That's what Vipassana, direct insight, is, which is engaged in and arrived at the aspect of Vipassana through analytic meditation. So through the practice of analytic meditation, you're training to give rise to this wisdom, the wisdom that more fully or completely, ultimately completely realizes and understands the nature of all phenomena as being not truly established, that all phenomena, all appearances are not truly existent. So we engage in that, develop that through conceptual analysis. And then through this, through fully realizing this type of wisdom, direct insight, only through that can the afflictive emotions truly be completely uprooted. It's through Vipassana that from their depths the afflictive emotions are eradicated. Here, so to cultivate meditative stability that transcends the four formless states is the practice of a bodhisattva. So then, ultimately, our sublime meditation that transcends the four formless states is the unity of these two aspects, meditative concentration and direct insight, Vipassana, of shamatha and Vipassana. So having engaged in the aspect of analytic meditation to gain the wisdom of direct insight into the nature of things, then you can't just eternally remain in the aspect of analysis. Then you take the realization, the understanding gained through analysis, and engage that in placement meditation. Thus combining the two. So then this is the unity of these two, Vipassana and shamatha. Vipassana perfectly endowed with shamatha. So that's the ultimate phase of meditation as described here, is the full manifestation or realization of the unity of direct insight and shamatha, single point of concentration. So we'll stop there for today.
That's what you need to hear.
Any questions?
Could Rinpoche explain a little bit more about what kind of meditation leads to the four formless states? What are the
다 rumejide pe tene ta shini pe bubu ra wadi chadu de namkha tayi namshi tayi sibizen jeme ma simi zuro
namkha tayi
namshi tayi sibizen jeme ma ta deso ta jikten ba bi jikngaran zure ni ta yongju se ta something Ada so chikane shini pogo ra so ta tinga ran so tene nga tsuke lam ni chi jeta wa ro mai ta so ta tin pe sam de ta nga tsu korsa ra ke ya ga ro ben ta nga ran so chi ni choba ro chi ka ro ben na ka ni 타이에 바래도 something digging on you also better little bit yeah dinner got about a little bit of the rock anyway
so the four formless states are arrived at through extremely deep or very deep and stupid or deep calm abiding shamatha, going like too deeply into shamatha, where one then through solely focusing on and going a bit deep into shamatha, then one can arise in one of the four formless states, being limitless space, limitless consciousness, the pinnacle of cyclic existence, and nothing at all, the fourth state, formless realms, being a state of nothing at all. Really are the meditative concentrations, states of meditative concentration of worldly vehicles, worldly traditions. very deep states of calm abiding, where for us are potential errant paths that you can fall sway to. So, states where there's no emotion, no feeling, no sensation really arising at all. One has a sense of being like lost in a vast expanse of space, infinite vast expanse of space. Then through like stabilizing that, one can remain in such a state for many eons.
So, gotta say.
Fourth one is pinnacle of existence.
What's nothing at all?
That's third.
Okay, those are flipped around. That makes sense.
맞아, 내 파이 되게 되는 총받들이 지야 로도와. 내 코드니 지 총받이 뭐지 거기 니 본다고 저기 있잖아.
요거래.
얘네 마다다 추지 파고 추들이지. 근데 디마다 거기서 총받을 때 저거 지우다가 따들이 걸로가 따. 따다 주들이 되네. 근데 이제 거기서 자야고서 들이지. 근데 야 셴들이라고 투하다 요거도 그만 춘이는 도면 그만 셴들이라고 놓어서
신기 năng 주지.
셴이가 맞다. 셴들이다.
신자하로.
셴자하로도 근데 추사마 추구마 땅에서도 춘이들이 돈들이 트럭들이 춘이들이 문화들이 트럭들이 자협들이 줘서 근데 그 셴때에서 너는 야 근데 그때에서 공격되어서 근데 그때는 리스트와 roba de kase go tsani ngi me tene ko mal ro de tene da ko yamara tene chekene ko chog dam ro da ko chona ka ba de da ko chol sa so se tene ko ya ro lo je ka le bo ne do ja ga ni ma ko la che tene da ta che tene halan da tene ya le un sa ta ya ka te ya ma le un sa tene ya tna de ji ya chongba de ko chongba da ko 야, 지금 딱 처음 받고 가르쳐 그 셴이 가만둬도 그 말도
그래, 랑키.
예, 가만둬도 그 셴이 때에서 나 야. 카도 시다도 되겠어. 근데 그 무슨 그 라마들 저 짬이다. 그 로봇 님은 쉬어서 선더라. 그 마대 그 짬. 야, 치치치고 살람도. 아, 로레스.
Some time ago in my homeland, there was a merchant who would go travel to India to buy and sell his wares. I don't know what he was doing, travel to India. And on one occasion, he was traveling with his like attendant, his servant, helper along the way. I think this attendant had a predilection for meditation. He had some instruction like to meditate. So they arrive at some place, a little like a grass field there. In those days, you had horses that carry the loads. So nice grass. So they stop there and let the horses eat the good grass. And the servant, the attendant, went to search for wood, for like firewood. And in the field there wasn't any. So he goes off into the forest looking for firewood and kind of gets lost out there. Can't find wood anywhere. He comes up to like the confluence of two rivers that were below this like cliff. The two rivers come together below this cliff. And maybe quite beautiful. Anyway, so by that point he's collected his wood, but it's kind of nice. So he sets down his sack of wood there and sits down next to the river and gazes at the cliff face and remains there and deep in a state of samadhi, meditative concentration, just focused on this cliff at the confluence of these rivers. So the businessman, his boss, was waiting for him to come back, and he's not coming back. So eventually he goes out looking for him, and he'd gone quite, long way away. So when he gets close to this river, he sees it like the slopes, like it's a rocky, slippery slope, so he just doesn't find the attendant, so he just concludes that, he fell into the river, he died. So he's, sad, and oh well, we lost him, and goes back to the horses and carries on with his journey, goes to Kalimpong, goes through India for about a year or so. Next summer, he's returning back on the same path. And remember that nice little pasture. Stops there feeding the horses. This time he's got to go find his own wood. So he's out in the forest looking for his own wood. And sure enough, he sees a stack of wood there. And sitting behind it, there's his attendant with his mouth slightly open, still sitting staring at the cliff face. So the merchant, he's quite shocked and kind of terrified by the scene. So he eventually comes up and shakes him out of it and says, "Hey, what are you doing?" The attendant looks up at him and he says, "Oh, it's time to go." Dedication and aspiration prayers.